welcome to this event being held to raise awareness about the extent suffering in Yemen as a result of the detonation of cargo ships carrying food and fuel and medicine for the people of Yemen. Firstly, thank you for attending at this humanitarian symposium, and thank you to our panel speakers who have kindly agreed to speak in this event. Secondly, as you all know, the foundation of life in Yemen has been destroyed due to the war and the suffocating siege. After the central bank of Yemen has been removed from the capital city, an illegal blockade has been approved, stopping cargo ships carrying food and medical from entering the country, leading to what become known as the worst man-made humanitarian catastrophe. Thirdly, without much, I should go ahead and introduce our panel speakers. First speaker will be Mr. Dr. Trond Ali. He's the founder of Norwegian Islamic Center, and Dr. Trond has an extensive aid experience and he's familiar with the Yemeni disaster. So, Dr. Trond, welcome to this event.
First, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to this conference. I'm sitting here in Oslo, Norway, rather far away from Yemen itself. But I would like to send my best regards to Yemen. Yemen is a proud country. It has a proud history. It has a rich culture. Yemen is a great country. Now this country is suffering a war. I think it is important first to stress what is the character of the war. In other newspapers, often they said it is about a kind of a civil war, an internal war somehow. But I think we should know what is the real character of this war. And in my mind, it is between, on one side, foreign powers that want to control Yemen, to use Yemen to promote their own interests, that their interests and their position in the region should grow. Yemen is a kind of a tool in their hands to promote their own interests. And this for sure concerns Saudi Arabia, it concerns America, United States, it concerns other Western powers. They are the aggressive part in this war. They are coming from outside to promote their own interests. On the other hand, you have the Yemeni people. They are fighting for their independence, that they themselves shall control and rule their own country. So basically, in my mind, it is a war between foreign powers wanting to control Yemen, and the Yemeni people itself want to fight for independence and the right to their own country. This is the character of the war in my mind. Then what kind of war this has turned out to be? It is a very cruel war. The aggressive part are using all their weapons available to them to try to bomb the Yemeni people into submission, to make hunger for them, to make them into submission. But the Yemeni people is strong and they are fighting, and their cause is the right cause. There is a terrible situation when the aggressive part start to blockade and prevent food, medicines, other kind of equipment, oil and its products, try to prevent these items reaching into the people of Yemen in order to try to make them submit to these foreign aggressive powers. And really it is a disgrace for them, and it is a cruel matter that they are showing out, trying to prevent people in Yemen from having food, medicines, whatever is needed for social life in this country. And the result of it is really cruel indeed. It is a hunger catastrophe catastrophe, lack of medicines. This is, as far as I understand it, the situation in Yemen now. And then what can be done with it? One thing is, of course, to try to open the blockade, let items be brought into Yemen, food, medicine, whatever is needed in the social society to stop the blockade. This is not very easy because the aggressive parties are rather strong and they are really aggressive and they want really to try to fight and submit these Yemeni people. But this is one point, bring in items. But the other point is that also to point out why items don't reach into Yemen. What kind of blockade is present? What is the thinking behind the blockade? I think this is important matters talking from Oslo, Norway. Unfortunately, Norway is not far away from the aggressive part in Yemen, not far away from Saudi Arabia, not far away from United States, England, other Western countries. So in Norwegian newspapers, we are told that there is a blockade, but it is not talked more about this blockade, what it is about. So the focus, the only focus in Norwegian newspaper is there should be given money so that the Yemeni people could be helped in this crisis they are facing. Bring in money, support them, let them buy food if there are food available. This is a rather strict view concerning isolated giving help. But I think it also is important to set it into the total context. Why they don't have food, why they are hungry, why they are dying, why their water system are being bombed and destroyed. What is the reason behind this crisis? We should point out that this is the aggressive part, Saudi Arabia, America, and other allies of them, which are responsible for this catastrophe. So we should also explain and tell people the reason for the catastrophe, the aggressive part, they should be condemned. I think there are many ways to help. And for sure, we should have focus on them and we should see what we, each of us can do to help them. And again, yes, when international organizations say that they will give money, try to bring food into Yemen, we should support them. But second, we should also always, as I try to explain, tell people why this crisis take place. Who are the aggressive part? Who are the responsible powers for this situation? This we could say is the great questions to discuss. But our organization in Oslo is not a big organization, but we also consider what we can do. And now we have collected money and we have sent them to good organizations in Yemen. Now we are building a sewing center for widows in the mountains in Yemen. Their husbands, they have been killed in the war. They are alone with the children.
Right.
So we hope this can be one way of assisting people in Yemen, in a small amount, however, but it also helps us to keep focus on the total situation.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Trond. And our speaker is a lady of remarkable skill and experience, and a Yemeni American activist and organizer, chair of Action Group, and a founder of Union of Arab Women. Ms. Sumaya Romain, please welcome. Ms. Sumaya, can you tell us what's the current actual humanitarian situation in Yemen? And as we know, you have done a lot of humanitarian aid in Yemen. And do you think the UN aid agency are doing enough to help the people of Yemen?
In the beginning, I want to say thank you so much for inviting me to this conference.
No problem.
As we see, the situation in Yemen is very complicated, and we know that it's the worst humanitarian crisis in the world now. and we have like to do a really steps to stop all what's happening in Yemen, and to to find a way to also to open the black aid that's now affecting millions of Yemenis people. And we have to see like we need to see like a serious steps happening in the real life, because we kept hearing a lot of news from there and there, but like we didn't see anything now happening in the real life. We had done so much work by lobbying, visiting Congress members, senators,
Right.
trying to talk to them about what's happening in Yemen, how people in our country are suffering, and what we can do to stop that, and trying to find a political solution to put all groups together so they can solve their problem between themselves as in Yemeni. Because what's happening actually in Trump era, Trump, he used this war to make his own business, and now with the new president, we hope that our new president, after he announced that he will stop the war in Yemen and try to find a political solution, we hope that's going to happen soon. And we believe that our new president, he's he's serious about what he's saying, and we hope to see what is next. We are waiting to see, and if not, we're gonna keep organizing our people and going back to lobbying and making sure that like we're gonna see serious things happening in the real life and stop this injustice war. For the UN, I don't think that the UN, they do enough work to support the Yemenis people in the in Yemen, and I feel that they are taking sides. And we hope that they realize what is happening and listen to the Yemenis people who's in the ground, not listening to the politic people who's taking advantage of this war. And we hope that they have I'm 100% sure that they have their own people who's working in Yemen, and they can tell them what's happening there, how people are suffering, and how they can help out with help them out with the medicine, food, and also release the ships that's now it's they block them in the south, and people are in need now, and they they are dying because of that, and they have to look at it seriously and not taking side.
So, what in your opinion could do to help like many people in this disaster situation that Yemeni, from our activists, our international circle, what can we do as an activist? Just attending and demanding the
Yeah,
literacy.
and honestly, every one of us has a power. I always keep saying everywhere that powers, it's two kinds of power: power of money and power of people. Power of money,
Right.
which is the Saudi coalition, they are using it, and power of people, it's what we are using. Power of people, we have to organize our communities in United States, because our communities has really real power, and they can change a lot. And we have to keep mobilizing and also lobbying, visiting our senators, calling our Congress members, and telling them that we need to make sure that we what our president said is going to happen. We need to stop this war as soon as possible, and we need to have a real relief to the many people, and to help the our country to start growing and restructuring. And we need to see that in the real life. We don't want just releasing news and things. We need real work.
Thank you, Ms. Sumaya. So our next speaker is a journalist all the way from Germany. Welcome, Mr. Jacob.
First, I also would like to point out that I'm very grateful that you invited me for this talk, so I'm highly appreciated. And you're very right. Germany is among the largest arms exporter to the Saudi-led coalition. I did some research some time ago, and Germany is the 5th largest arms exporter to the coalition. First, of course, it's USA. Like almost 2/3 of the weapons that go to the coalition come from the USA. And then behind it is France, Russia, Great Britain, and then Germany. So, and also during the war, like since the war started in 2015, I went through the reports from the German government. Like every year, they issue reports on arms exports. And I found out that it's almost 13 billions of euros that they sent arms since the war started. So it's not only like in preparation for the war they sent arms, but also like just during the war, like to fill up the empty arsenals again, so that the coalition can keep bombing Yemen. So it's just 13 billion, which is a huge amount of weapons. And for us as German people, like we just have to press our government, because in their latest coalition contract that lays out the German government positions, they themselves said that they don't want, that they cease sending weapons to countries that are involved in the Yemen war. This is what they said themselves, but they just don't care about their own words and their own contracts. So they keep sending every year to every coalition member, like there are 8 coalition members in the Arab coalition, and they send every single year, they send weapons to those exact countries. So, which means they just contradict their own words, their own contract that should bind their actions. And we as German citizens, we should every day press our government that they just stop sending these arms, because of course Yemen needs a political solution to end the conflict. Like there need to be negotiations between the Houthis and the Hadi government and all these different factions, but as an immediate threat, there's just bombs dropping on the country. So as an immediate step, these bombs just have to stop. And by doing so, we as people from those countries, those exact countries where the weapons come from, we must press and hold our governments accountable that they stop being complicit in this genocidal war on Yemen. So yeah, we need to go on the streets, demonstrate, send letters to them, just make Yemen a public topic, and to press our government. That's the most important thing, that these weapons, arms exports, that they just stop. They must stop. Yeah. The Yemen war started under Obama. Like he gave the green light to the Saudi coalition, and then they supported the coalition on every possible area, like arming them. Also on the military front, they helped them in the headquarters in Riyadh and Abu Dhabi. They helped on the operational level. And then, of course, under Trump, this all escalated, as we know. And now there's big hope, like globally and also in the USA, that under Biden, that he will keep his word and try everything in his powers to end the war. But for me, like, to be honest, I don't have much hope in him, because as we all know, a few weeks ago, he laid out his foreign policies in a big speech, where he also mentioned Yemen, and he said that he will cease to support Saudi Arabia in offensive actions. And this is very important to understand, that he didn't say he will stop supporting Saudi Arabia. He said that he will stop only supporting him, like them, in offensive actions. And as we all know, Saudi Arabia, they justify their war by self-defense. They say, we defend our country, and that's why we are bombing Yemen. So in their perspective, everything they do is defensive. And when Biden now says he will cease to support him, like them, only in offensive actions, that basically means nothing. Like, because it's just it's just nice words that sound good on an international level, that you and people believe he's honest and frank about ending the war. But in my point, it's just a change in narrative, but not a change in policies or in actual actions. Because I don't know. really I don't have much hope in Biden in this in these terms.
Next speaker is Humanity Voice from the U.S., who has been actively campaigning to raise awareness about the suffocating of the people in Yemen. Mr. Trond Ali, please welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I think the first thing that I want to discuss is I think the American people that are aware of what we're doing in Yemen, they are speaking out and they are trying to stop it. But the problem here is the majority, the massive majority, have no idea that we're arming against people that are simply trying to fight for their sovereignty. Excuse me. So I think education is a major priority here, so that people know. I also don't have any faith in Biden stopping this war. So I think right now is a critical time to continue the pressure, because a lot of times Biden got elected saying that he would stop our participation. So we really need to increase the pressure on him so hopefully it will stop. But at this point, I don't have much faith in that. A lot of the bills that go through Congress, even the bills that Trump vetoed to stop U.S. participation in Yemen, were written knowing that Trump would veto it. There was no honest attempt to stop our participation. Both Republicans and Democrats continue our support. And I think that is something that everybody needs to be aware of, because we think we get this leader or the Democrats get the majority in Congress and we will stop doing this and this, but it doesn't happen. It never happens. So that is something I think everybody needs to address, and we need to not make excuses for them, and continue putting pressure on them. Okay, so U.S. support for the Yemen war. I don't believe this war would have happened without U.S. support. I don't believe it can continue without U.S. support. So I do believe that we are solely responsible. I know there are other parties to it, but we do have, the United States government has the power to end the war. That is my belief. It is a very hard thing for me to talk about. So the man-made catastrophe in Yemen is beyond what most Americans can even imagine. I know when I first started researching this, it was very difficult. I was honestly in shock for probably 2 weeks before I started talking about it, because it is hard to imagine that your government could do what we are doing in Yemen and starving civilians and children. So after 6 years of starving them, 6 years of bombing civilian infrastructure, 6 years of preventing food from reaching civilians, the United States has continued its support. It continues to blockade. I know Biden says that we're going to stop our support, but he also says that we are going to help Saudi protect their borders. Saudi would not need to protect their borders from Yemen if they would simply stop bombing them. So then again, that's just talk from U.S. politicians to manipulate the public so that Americans aren't aware of how complicit we are in this genocide. And now we're blocking fuel ships. So after we destroy the hospitals and we have the civilian population in famine, starving to death, I believe there are 50,000 Yemenis currently within days from death from starvation. And we continue a blockade that prevents fuel, so that prevents aid. We can raise all the money in the world. It's not going to help people of Yemen if it cannot get to them. If they cannot have access to food, if the blockade continues, this money makes no difference. They have to be able to have access to food, to medicine, to goods. The hospitals in Yemen, the few that remain after the bombing, are closing down because there's not fuel. So it's something that needs to be addressed. The United States needs to demand the blockade is lifted. The United States needs to stop participating in it.
Thank you, Ms. Rand. Thank you for you. Thank you.
Risk of starvation this year. 400,000 children are facing severe malnutrition,
right,
and can die without urgent treatment. This also, the suffering these children go through is something that is going to continue for generations. So this should have never happened, but obviously we have to address this now before we lose more of these kids to this war. I'm sorry.
That's great. Thank you for your kindness feeling, Ms. Randa, and for your ideas, guys. Civilians in Yemen looking forward to end up this suffocation siege after 5 years. Well, the Saudi regime has turned the country into a prison, threatening more than 60,000 patients with the cancer tumors that have sprained women and children. So our next speaker will be Ms. Kim Sharif. If you want to add up something to this symposium, please welcome Ms. Kim.
Good afternoon to you. First of all, I thank you with all my heart on behalf of at least 30 million people, of the Yemeni people, for taking the time, all of you excellent people, experts who've made the time to be here today to speak about the suffering in Yemen and to explore the causes of this problem and to suggest ways of alleviating the suffering there. And each and every one of you has made very, very important points about what's really going on in Yemen. And some of you have also mentioned figures. The critical issue is the unlawful detention of cargo ships that carry food, fuel, and medicine that are being pirated by the Saudi coalition with the aid of the US regime, deliberately as a means of using hunger as a weapon of war. These cargo ships are commercial ships carrying ordinary materials for civilians. They have gone through UN checks. They have been given UN passes. There is absolutely no reason why they ought to be pirated off to other ports than Port of Hodeidah, where it can be unloaded and supplied. And as you have heard, quite a lot of the remaining hospitals after the airstrikes have destroyed substantial amounts of the hospitals and infrastructure are unable to continue operating. We're dealing here with the worst man-made humanitarian catastrophe. The man that is making the catastrophe is also making noises about wanting a political solution, but when really, in reality, doesn't want a political solution. What it really wants is submission, colonization, control of the whole of Yemen, its resources, its people, its destiny, and everything else to do with Yemen. At the same time, this very coalition with all its Western backers are ignoring the fact that they are fighting alongside very dangerous terrorists like Aqab and Daesh, who last week made a declaration that they are part and parcel of Saudi coalition forces in places like Marib, for example. So the international community has been abysmal in terms of dealing with the matter of the Yemen file. We're dealing with 50,000 children dying per annum. All of these are under the age of 5. And that is genocide on an unprecedented scale, and it's ongoing, starting the 6th year in the next few weeks. There's going to be an international day of action again on the 26th of March. Quite a few countries are getting involved. We would humbly invite you all to join in as well and take part. We are inviting you also to aid in self-sufficiency programs that Dr. Trond has spoken about, which he is conducting. And please get in touch with us if you want details of how you may be able to make donations to Dr. Trond's organization that's doing an amazing work in terms of self-sufficiency in Yemen. We want to expand these programs. We also want to continue our activity in terms of doing the weekly update as we are doing today. And we would invite you to come back again and join us every Friday where we're going to be doing the same conference in Arabic once and in English the other time, in order for the world to know the extent of suffering that is going on in Yemen, who is responsible for it, and what can be done to help the people of Yemen. Yes, the people of Yemen want peace, and they are desperate for peace, but the international community is not allowing that. The UN is being used as a cover to perpetuate this genocide. The UN was set up to prevent such things happening in the world. But unfortunately, on this occasion, UN itself is a party to the Saudi-led coalition, effectively, by failing to take the necessary steps. Aid agencies going and collecting money to aid Yemen and not getting enough of it, and some country not giving aid as it was supposed to do. All of this is just some kind of a psychopathic, narcissistic political game at the expense of 30 million people whose children, I mean, can you imagine the mothers watching their children dying in front of them as we are speaking right now? These ships that are being unlawfully detained must be released immediately. The aid agencies, with the greatest respect, are not doing their job right. They need to be saying, release the ships, because that is the cause of the famine. And rather than going to conferences to collect money, all this money, where is it going? I can tell you that it's not going entirely to the people of Yemen, because if it did, by now the situation would be totally different from the time they started collecting aid money some 6 years ago. So they're not doing their job. In a way, they're also aiding and abetting. Western media is also aiding and abetting, with, of course, the exception of good people, brothers like our brother Jacob Reinman from Germany, who are aware of what's happening and are actively involved in monitoring the situation and doing what they can to help us. So once again, I'm not going to go on. I can go on talking until after tomorrow, because the matter of Yemen is heartbreaking. It's worrying. It reminds me of scenes of Second World War, which shouldn't be happening today in the 21st century. And I'm hoping that the international community, the people of the world, we can't count on politicians anymore. The people of the world wake up with us. Like Sister Rhonda has kindly pointed out, majority of the people of America don't know what's happening in their name. So we need to continue doing this kind of work. And we very much thank you very, very, very much for making the time today to speak about the situation here with us. And thank you to all the team who have made this event possible. And thank you for also having me to talk with you. Thank you so much. Well done, Mohammed. You've done a great job today. And all of you, you've been amazing. Thank you. I'm very touched.
You also, Ms. Kim, thank you. And before we wrap up this event, I want to give the panel speakers a few minutes to send a message to those guests who are watching them on YouTube channel. We started with Dr. Trond. What's the last message that you want to send to those people, the Yemeni people that are watching you right now on live and YouTube channel? We have over 100 guests on YouTube watching you right now. Do you want to send in a last message to those Yemeni people?
The war in Yemen, a terrible war, lot of cruelty, injustice. We should focus on this matter. It is being said about the war in Yemen that it is a silent war. Terrible things are going on, but people generally in the world don't have any focus on it. It is somehow a quiet war. Now we are talking what we can do, what kind of work we should promote in this situation. And I think one important thing is to make this war known to the people. It should not be a quiet war. It should be a lot of attention and focus on this war. And I'm happy again to participate in this meeting. I should add that our organization, we have somehow an open door to a television station in Norway. So I hope you allow me that we will bring this conference into the Norwegian television system, and we will broadcast this as far as we can to the whole of Norway. Maybe not a million of people will attend and look at it, but it is part of this challenge and work we should stress.
Definitely.
The war in Yemen should not be a silent war. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Jacob, last message that you want to send to Yemeni people that are watching you? I think your mic, Mr. Jacobs, is in mute.
First, I want to also emphasize what Trond said. it's about informing, like, you know, like the Western countries, we are supporting the war. But basically no one, or like very few people know about what's going on, and like the political dimensions, who is fighting who and why, for what reason. No one knows about these things because in the media, Yemen war is simply absent. So first and foremost thing is like information, like we have to inform people, because of course to end wars, we need, you know, solidarity with the Yemeni people. We need empathy. We need to like feel their suffering to stop it. But in order to do so, we need information. Like we have to educate ourselves. We have to educate people on the war, about the dynamics, and you know, step behind the headlines in the media, because the media is simply not doing their job, at least in the West. In Germany, I can say the media is simply not doing its job. Because the analysis is like so shallow, it's just on the surface. So, and if you don't have accurate analysis and accurate information, you simply can't understand what's going on. And so this is our very important job for us, to educate people and inform people. And to the Yemeni people, I would just like to say, yeah, that's such a huge tragedy what's going on in your country. And I feel really shame for the Western government's complicity in this war. And yeah, it's just shameful what we're doing there. And I hope that you keep up and will survive this tragedy, and that you will live in peace soon. And we're doing our best here to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jacob, and thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. Ms. Randa, from your kindest heart, that last music that you want to send to our people that watch you?
I just want to say, for any American people that are watching this, because I don't think a lot of them know that Congress has the power to stop supporting this war today. They don't need all the bills that they keep submitting, bills that never have, that aren't going to be passed. And they know that when they submit them. It's simply another method to get votes, get support from the American people, and make us think that they are actually working on our behalf. But Congress does have the power. Congress is the only body that can appropriate funds. So all the money that goes to the Saudi coalition, that goes to the blockade, that goes to the ships, comes from Congress, and they can stop that today. I think that is very important thing for Americans to know, because when they talk to their representatives, they need to let them know that we know this, that we know that these bills that they put in Congress that do not have the, that will not pass, that we can stop this today. I'm sorry, I keep going back and forth. To the people of Yemen, my heart goes out to you, and
I feel you.
It's very hard to think about this. I'm sorry. But one thing I can say, the people of Yemen, I know that they are fighting for their sovereignty and they are fighting for their families, but they are fighting for all of us, and they are fighting for humanity when they fight this war. And it is a sacrifice that I will never forget. I have nothing but love for you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Randa. Ms. Kim, a last message that you want to send to the international community before we end up this?
Yeah, my message, first of all, is thank you so much all. I am moved to tears, but I will leave my crying for when I have to go out of the camera. I have this message for the Western governments that are backing this genocidal campaign in Yemen. Mark my words, this horror will leave a very, very stinky scar on your conscience and the conscience of your peoples. Your peoples will be demanding accountability from you, and no one is going to escape justice. It doesn't matter how long it takes. There is going to be accountability. There is going to be reality check at one point. Already the evidence coming out that you are aiding and abetting a coalition that is using known terrorists as its ground forces already presents a very challenging problem for you, because you claim for the past 20 years to be fighting terrorism, yet you appear to be aiding and abetting terrorism, albeit indirectly or through your Saudi coalition proxies. The Yemeni blood is very dear, and it's not going to be wasted for nothing. So much has already been revealed about the reality of the hypocrisy of the international community, of the UN, its agencies, and a whole host of Western media that always claimed to be pro-democracy and free speech suddenly became deaf and unable to speak the truth. Hardly ever any headlines. The peoples of the world don't know exactly what's happening. Like Rhonda said, like Jacob said, like Dr. Trond said, there is lack of information about the horrors being committed in Yemen in their names. And of course, we will do our best to continue campaigning to raise the matter of the Yemen genocidal campaign by Saudi coalition backed by Western countries. Very unfortunate. Mark my words, is going to leave a very, very stinky scar in your conscience and the conscience of humanity for years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. Ms. Sumia, we come back. Isn't any last message that you want to send before we end up this event?
I have announcement. For March 25th, we will have another International Day. We're going to have a protest in front of the UN, making sure that they're going to lift the blockade, and also like making sure that they're going to starting doing real work and stop taking sides. And also I want to thank all the organization that helped us doing the word say no for the war against Yemen, and they had that amazing work. We had more than 385 organizations joined us to do this International Action Day in January. So I just want to say thank you so much for everyone who helped us out to let people know what's happening in Yemen. And also we saw now we have a really great and big coalition who's helping us to make sure that people knows exactly what's happening, and we have to stop the USA government to use our dollars tax to kill people in Yemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sumaya. So as our president here today is in order also to send a message to the whole world saying the situation is very painful in Yemen. You might not be able to imagine the scale of humanitarian crisis. Just close your eyes for a moment and you will see how the Saudi warplanes destroy the schools and hospitals, killing women and children in the war that have destroyed all aspects of life in Yemen. So finally, and before we can call this message, I hope that inshallah will be a lot from your circle, guys, defending the plus Yemenis and the humanity that been killed in Yemen for 6 years by demanding the lifting siege of the Yemeni people. So again, guys, thank you so much for being here with us today in this humanitarian symposium, and we really appreciate your support, our panel speakers and the guest watcher. Thank you so much, guys. You guys done an amazing job, and we hope to see you again, guys. Like Sumaya said, there's an come up event in March 25, right, Sumaya? Yeah, so finally we're gonna follow up on this. So again, thank you so much for your support.
Sorry, Mohammed. Yes. In Germany is on the 27th of March. In Britain, in the UK is on the 26th of March, and in the US is on the 25th of March. We are still the same team working together, coordinating this International Day of event.
Yeah. So finally we follow up in that day. Thank you again, and thank you so much for being here with us, and have a good night.